Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show podcast, coming from right here in our quaint little studio. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. I'm joined in studio today by Robert Meyer Burnett.
A lot of goodness to talk about today, John.
Jonathan Voico's here.
Good morning, everybody.
Chris Carr is here.
I hope you all had a very happy Easter Mania.
And most importantly, you guys are here. Thank you so much for being here and making our little show part of your day. And here's how today's show is going to go. We're going to start off by talking about a number of predetermined topics we got lined up for you guys. Then in the second part of the show, that's where we're going to take your live comments and questions. If you have a thought, theory, opinion, question, or topic that you'd like us to address on the show, go ahead and fire it on into our tip link at www.streamelements.com/JohnCampea/tip. If you send it in, and as long as we deem it appropriate to be addressed on our show, remember, you are not buying a question to be read on the show. You're just supporting us by sending in a tip. And as a thank you to you, we're going to address your questions on our show if we deem it appropriate. But here's the good news about the tip link. It's good 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So if you happen to be listening to our podcast, say on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting app of choice, or if you're watching the show a little bit later in the day when we're not live, you can still send in a question. And if you send one in when we're not live, we'll just get around to answering it on the next episode. By the way, can I grind an axe here for a second? Can I just please grind an axe here for a second?
Yes.
You know, sometimes I'll talk about stuff and I'll be like, now don't quote me, don't go writing stories about this. And people goes, John, why do you always feel the need to say that? But you always say that. Why do you feel the need to say that?
I know what you're going to say.
Tell you why I feel the need to say that. Because I get the news alerts when I'm quoted in in outlets and stuff like that. So I get this headline sent to me. It's basically saying the Batman 2 has been canceled. YouTuber insider John Campea says on his show that the Batman 2 has been canceled. And I'm looking at this headline, and it's like, what's it called? Fanwire or something? Like, I can't remember the name of the outlet. It's all over my news feeds though. So I'm like, wait a minute. And I stop for a second. Did I ever say that the Batman 2 was canceled? And I'm like, you know what it was? You know how we play a little game of what's more likely? We're going to be playing a game of that later today. Well, one of the questions that came in the other day of what's more likely is, what's more likely, that the Batman 2 gets canceled or James Gunn moves Robert Pattinson's Batman into the DCU?
Yes.
Just a hypothetical thing. That's the game, right? So they
Sent in by a viewer.
Sent in by a viewer. Wrote in that question and asked, and we saw, oh, okay, such and such asked this. All right. I said, well, neither are likely. But basically I said, I think it's far more likely that the Batman 2 gets canceled out of those two scenarios.
Yes.
So they post this clip of just me saying, I think it is more likely that the Batman 2 gets canceled. And they're at the story that the Batman 2 is getting canceled because I lose more and more faith every day in the intelligence of human beings. I really do. So anyway,
Okay, yeah.
I blame John Cena.
He just could reconfirm the Batman 2's getting canceled.
Yeah, John Campea just doubled down and reconfirmed that the Batman 2 has been canceled. Anyway.
You got to do better, Campea.
Oh my God, it drives me crazy. Anyway, guys, with all that nonsense out of the way, let's get into some real stuff here, shall we? And we're going to start off with this. The event happened last night. Last of Us, episode 2 of season 2 dropped. And something that I, for almost a year, have said I don't think they're going to do till near the end of the season. Well, they did it. In episode 2, they went a-golfing. And it happened. And I'll tell you what. First of all, let's do this. The episode came out last night. If you're really into Game of Thrones or Last of Us, you've probably seen. So we're going to put up the spoiler alert here. So, because we are going to talk about, we're not going to do a full hour-long spoiler discussion here, but we probably will mention some details. So if you've not seen last night's episode of The Last of Us, as long as this spoiler alarm is there, you might want to mute your television, laptop, computer, iPad, or phone. And then once this spoiler alert comes down, then you can go ahead and turn it on.
Let's go read about the Batman 2 cancellation and come back.
Sorry about letting you know about the Batman 2 cancellation. So they go golf and they kill off Joel in that episode. Now, just for those of you who don't know, it does happen very early in game 2. Like very early. I just thought since they were splitting game 2 into 2 seasons, I thought they would stretch it out. Let me talk about just a couple things. They continue the tradition that they started in season 1, where Druckmann and Craig Mazin decided we're not handcuffed to doing everything exactly the way it was done in the game. There are elements that they do extremely close to the game, and then they take some wild liberties. And every time in season 1 that they took wild liberties, it enhanced the show.
That was my nickname in college.
Enhanced?
No, Wild Liberties.
Wild.
Canceled.
Those two have 2 different overtures. Anyway.
And
So,
Enhance.
last night, same thing. In certain aspects, they stayed very close to the way the events unfolded in the game, but then they took some massive liberties as well, such as the events are going on in the chateau, there happens to be a zombie horde infected raid of Jackson, right? And it was basically Helm's Deep. It was Helm's Deep in the world of The Last of Us. It was amazing. It was so good. And again, just let me reiterate, good dogs, good boys. What the fuck would cats have done if they unleashed a wad of Disneyland feral cats? Nothing. They would have licked their asses and looked at you while you're getting eaten. That's what they would have done. But dogs saved the day. Anyway.
But not lions.
No, not lions. I'll give you that. The dogs saved the day. So that was absolutely insane and incredible. I was telling Rob, like, that scene where you get a glimpse of it in one of the trailers where Caitlin is like shimmying between a building and a fence, and there's a whole bunch of fence, and then the fence collapses. And like, that is actually that's one of the most stressful sequences of television I've seen all year. Like, my stomach was in my throat, and I know what happens. And my stomach was still in my throat. I couldn't believe it. The music choice to play at the end of the episode was so inspired, like so bang on the money. It was just a fabulous episode. I still don't think it was the best episode of The Last of Us. I still think season 1, episode 3 holds that title. But my God, if this is what we're getting, and you know what? I had a moment of reflection last night. We were doing the post-game show, and I talked about how, like, I've been really thinking for a year now that they would save the death of Joel until later in season 2 and deviate from the game that way. But when I think about it now, that was kind of silly of me to think, because the death of Joel is what actually starts the real story of The Last of Us 2. The real story of The Last of Us 2 doesn't start. It doesn't get sparked. It doesn't get ignited unless Joel dies. And so I feel kind of silly now, like not having thought of that. And now looking at it in hindsight, it's like, yeah, I probably should have realized it then. Anyway, overall, I think it's the second best episode of The Last of Us we've had so far. Certainly best of the season. It sets a really high bar now moving forward. And I don't know how they're going to top themselves. Anyway, Rob, you had a chance to see the episode last night. What were your thoughts on it?
Well, first of all, I mean, it goes down in history as an incredible episode of horror television. I mean, it was one of the things that I've really liked, and they started this in season 1, is how they've sort of expanded the mythology of the cordyceps infection.
Yeah.
And how, and this, they set it up great, like with the pipes, and you saw the cordyceps, gone through the pipes, and they did something.
Fungi tendril.
Yeah, the fungi tendrils, and that whole thing when the idea of these buried bodies were still alive, and that whole thing was an addition to the mythology that was so smart and so scary, and so, like, how do you keep making it interesting? Because eventually the cordyceps infection, people just get bored of it. Like, how do you keep change things up?
Yeah.
They use the environment in the after show. They talked about, they shot that in a real blizzard up on Whistler Mountain in Vancouver. Crazy. And the idea that Druckmann and Mazin had is that there's storms coming in on every on every level. Personal storms, an actual storm, a storm of the infected. And all of that worked, each part of it worked to accentuate the other part of it. I mean, it was such a, you're watching this and like literally all hell is breaking loose on a personal level and on a community level, on an existential level. It was so good in so many levels. And what you want, that's what great adaptations do. Great adaptations stay true to the spirit of what you're adapting, but then they add something. I mean, I was talking to Chris about this at the beginning of the show. When you're playing a game, you're the protagonist. You know, you're in the position of the protagonist.
Right.
When you're sitting back and watching a drama that you have to watch unfold, it's a totally different experience. And it's a lot harder for the people that are turning a video game into a drama to make it as engaging to viewers. And remember, most of the people watching this have not played the game. So that you have to turn it into something. You have to do what a great adaptation does. And John, like you said, episode 3, but that episode last night was what I wanted the long night in Game of Thrones to
Yes.
Yeah.
When
You know-
when John was mentioning Helm's Deep, I was like, this feels like the long night to me.
be. Yeah, and it was just, but during the day.
Except you could actually see what was happening.
Yeah.
Oh, shots fired.
But it had the personal stakes. I mean, the long night was cool, but it didn't resonate the way it should have. This was just the most apocalyptic. When you saw the end, when the aftermath and how many people had died and how many of the infected were, it was like the most apocalyptic. It was unbelievable. It was what Jerusalem looked like in World War Z, but you didn't get to see that aftermath really. It was unbelievable. They just were like, yeah, we watched World War Z. We watched The Long Night. Well, hold our beer. I mean, I loved it. It was so good.
Chris, you had a chance to watch it,
Yeah.
and maybe through, two
Well, it was a lot of
fingers
this.
on your
A lot of
hand.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you think about the episode?
Well, first of all, what a way to come down from WrestleMania. I had watched 2 days of WrestleMania and was like, oh, yay, The Last of Us. Oh, no. Within the first 5 minutes was just, oh, this is going to be bad. To do this on Easter Sunday, on 420, what were you all thinking? We viewers were not prepared.
Well, you want a resurrection? Here's a
There
crucifixion.
we go. Yeah, it was rough. This was so well done. And to piggyback off of what Rob was saying too, the thing with video games, right, is you are playing as that character. You experience agency, right? This is what I'm always going on about video games, is you feel that power or lack thereof of being able to initiate things and choose things.
Right, yeah.
And one of the brilliant things in the game was how powerless you feel during that scene with Abby, because you can't stop it. And this, mixed in with the horde coming in there, just amplified that feeling of helplessness so much.
Yep.
Because while we all obviously love Joel and Pedro Pascal and everything, I was wondering, how are we going to have that same emotional pull, especially doing this fairly early in the show? Oh, I know we've had the whole last season with him, but still, this is a really bold move to do this now. And they really, really nailed it. Gosh, just the little movement on the ground, too, is just so heartbreaking. It's so
when she's
well
yelling,
done.
Joel, get up, Joel, get up. Here's the most heartbreaking part for me. She's yelling, Joel, get up, Joel, get up. And then his face moves a little and his hand moves. And then the camera cuts back to Ellie. And just for a brief second, this slight look of hope comes on her face, only to be dashed. It's like, that was like the most emotionally devastating thing to me. That was crazy.
The two of them, it's a masterclass in acting. And anyone who has anything negative to say about Bella Ramsey, you don't know what good acting is. You just don't. It's literally hitting you in the face. They are doing a wonderful, wonderful job here. So great, so well executed. And I mean that in every sense of the word. I really just love what they did with this episode. And I also love that Abby explains the why. Because in the game, there is that kind of idea of, does Joel know why this is happening to him? Or does he go to his death just going, well, I'm probably paying for one of my sins.
One of my many sins.
Yeah,
And accepts it. And I love oh, okay, I know exactly
You know
who
what
my
else I loved?
executioner is.
He never tried to defend himself.
Exactly.
I don't mean physically. I mean verbally. Never tried
No.
to defend
But
himself.
Pedro Pascal, in his silence, just listening, was awesome. The whole thing was
Oh,
awesome.
so good.
And her performance, when you can see she's completely around the bend, and her compatriots are like, oh man, she's gone.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing they can do. And again, another storm brewing that is going to lay waste to everything. Oh man, it was
You know what
really
the
well
other thing,
done.
especially at that end, as she's watching Joel die, there was a moment that I think is the most important moment of the episode that I think it just glossed over really quickly. as she's talking to, and I forget the name of the guy that that Ellie's on patrol with. I forget his name.
Jesse?
Is that his name? Okay.
So.
So he's like, oh, you and Joel are on the outs. And she says, because remember, she's been an absolute brat, right? Ellie's been an absolute brat. But they take a quick moment for her to turn and just say, look, I'm still me, Joel's still Joel, and nothing is ever going to change that. But acknowledge, yeah, we're on the outs right now. But I mean, in that moment, she was basically implying, he loves me, I love him. That's never going to change. We're going to have a daddy-daughter day. But like, she still, thanks. And here's the brilliance of it. The brilliance of it is when she watches Joel die, now she has to live with the grief that Abby lived through, compounded with the fact that she has been an absolute asshole to him for a while. And I think that, like what I said on the after show last night, as Ellie was laying there watching Joel die, we saw the birth of a monster.
Right.
Like that, like a little bit of Ellie died. It's kind of like Batman in the alley watching his parents die. A little bit of Ellie died and a little bit of a monster was born. Mm-hmm. Because now, and if they hadn't set it up, like if they had set it up where just like in episode 1, everything was fine with Joel and Ellie, and then they just had one fight. Okay, but she's been horrible to him for a while. And now she's got to live with, he died having the last 6 months, last year, of me being an absolute awful, demonic little brat to him. And now, so like the grief compounded now with the guilt is going to lay the framework for what she turns into. And it's really
biblical.
Horrible things she's going to do this season.
Yeah. I mean, that's what great writing is. And, you know, I hope people recognize we're getting something that they've taken the game that was already great and elevated to such a high dramatic level. Mm-hmm. I mean, I watch this and I'm like, I marvel at the writing and the directing. On the after show last night, the director was talking about kind of that he was scared. He was scared about tackling this, and especially that scene. Like, how do you do that scene? How do you stage that scene? Mm-hmm. I thought, because in the game, you don't have these beautiful bay windows that are looking out on the bucolic countryside, which has now become just terrifying. Like, it's more of like in a barn or something. It's where it's all, and I thought, what a great idea putting it in this place that normally, when the real world was here, this would be an amazing place to be, sitting in this chateau, and you have this background, and it was so incongruous with what was going to happen. I was like, man, this is so well thought out. Mm-hmm. This is so well done.
Can I tell you guys the one thing that really bothered me about the episode? This is just the one thing, and it happened several times, and every time it happened, it pulled me out of the show for a split moment. Here it is. We're never going to survive this blizzard. Oh, it's so cold and the wind's blowing the snow. Next camera angle. Beautiful weather, no wind, no snow falling. Cut to the next shot. Oh, we got to get inside. And then you see the snow and the wind. Next shot, totally calm air, sunny day. And I'm just like, they really needed to pay attention to detail. They probably should have used a little post visual effects to make those shots feel a little windy or whatever. Because when those happen, that always pulled me out of it. Because again, like the cold and the blizzard is why Joel didn't immediately ride back to Jackson to help defend the town.
Right.
Because it was just understood in that weather, he'll never make it. He'll die before he gets there. Mm-hmm. And then they cut to a shot of Abby outside, and it's just totally beautiful. It's sunny, no snow is falling. And I thought, they should have been a little bit more aware of that. But that was like literally my only note. That was my only note on the whole show. But anyway, guys, question is for you. What did you think about last night's episode of The Last of Us? I thought it delivered in spades. I'm so happy with it. How did you guys feel about it? Whatever your thoughts are, jump down to the comment section below and leave your thoughts there. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Well, Sinners opened. We reviewed it last week. We loved it. It made $45 million on its opening weekend, higher than the studio's projections, lower than the upper end of where they thought it would be, but a huge opening weekend for an R-rated vampire film at $45 million. Congrats to them. But they achieved something even more rare. Did you know that in the history of Cinemascore, for those of you guys who don't know, Cinemascore is very unique in the sense that they actually interview people as they come out of the movie theater, and they actually get real people's real instant reactions to films as they're coming out of the movie theater. That's what makes Cinemascore unique. Did you know there has never been a horror film? I didn't know this.
Not even for Trolls 2?
Not even for Trolls 2 or Leprechaun in Space have we ever had a horror movie get an A cinema score. It's never happened in history until now. Deadline reports Sinners lands the first A cinema score ever for a horror film. They wrote this: Warner Brothers' Sinners is in rare air, becoming the first horror movie ever to earn an A cinema score from audiences in the exit poll organization's 47-year existence. Typically, CinemaScore audiences are harder on horror films. If you get anything in the B- range, that's amazing. The first A Quiet Place earned a B+. If you're a C, you're even safe. Outside of that anomaly, A- grades went to Five Nights at Freddy's, Get Out, The Lost Boys, still my favorite vampire movie of all time, The Conjuring 2, A Quiet Place 2, Child's Play 2. However, no other film but Ryan Coogler's Sinners has notched an A. This is, I think, one of these little stories that is going to go past a lot of people's radars. But I am always fascinated when something happens in the world of movies that has literally never happened before. And I don't think that should be undersold. First of all, Ryan Coogler made... Man, you can't even just instantly say his best film. This is the guy who made Fruitvale Station and Creed and Black Panther. But he made a masterpiece of a film. Went to go see it again yesterday. Every bit as effective the second time around as it is the first, at least according to Anne. It is just a remarkable movie that works. Because, you know, I often say, if you're making a comedy, you can get away with doing a lot of things in filmmaking wrong. But as long as you make people laugh, the comedy still works. In horror, it's the same. You can do almost everything else badly. But if you give great creeps and great scares and great thrills, everything else gets forgiven. Ryan Coogler managed to make a world-class movie before vampires are ever even introduced. Like we were talking during our review that in the first 30 minutes, the movie's so good, it made me forget that vampires were coming. It made me forget. The movie's just so good. I was so enthralled with the characters and enthralled with the story and enthralled with the setting and enthralled with the music. And it's just, he made a beautiful, amazing film, and then vampires show up. And then it just kicks it up a notch and gets even better. So again, I never even realized that no horror film had ever gotten an A cinema score. I think it's appropriate that Ryan Coogler's Sinners is the movie that did it. So good on them. Rob, you heard about this. How appropriate? Are you surprised? Not surprised? What do you think about this?
Well, I've been kind of surprised over the weekend of the discourse that's been surrounding this movie. And one of the things, as you pointed out, there's a lot going on in this film. You know, there's a lot of people like talking about it just as a vampire movie, which I'm like, this movie is really about, to me, it's about culture, and it's about, I mean, whether it's you're talking about music, whether you're talking about black culture in the 30s, whether you're talking about the Chinese immigrant experience. I read a really interesting article about how, and Ruth Carter was talking about how in the South, in Mississippi, a lot of Chinese immigrants had come there, and a lot of like Chinese food and Chinese culture, and they brought their brand of Christianity with them. And there's so much going on in this movie that I think to reduce it down to one thing, and the musical component, the spiritual component, the idea of a group of people wanting to open and control their own business. I mean, you have Smoke and Stack leaving the Capone era Chicago, where they had no agency. They were probably, you know, under everybody's thumb, coming back to Mississippi and starting their own business. And what does that all mean? It's all there. And it's such an interesting look at so many different things that, like you said, I was so fascinated by everything going on in the movie before Vampire. If vampires never showed up, and it was about these two guys start a juke joint, and it was like a day in the life of these two dudes, I would have been like, what an interesting film. You know, what an interesting film this is. And the fact that there's so much going on, like even there's people on Twitter that are like, this is the most amazing movie. What they're feeling is the authorship. And I think the fact that we're getting a horror film that is resonating, it resonates on so many levels before it becomes a horror movie. So I think people are it's encouraging to see that it got an A Cinemascore, because people realize this is a full meal. They're not just getting some monster, monsters come to the juke joint. I mean, I love From Dusk Till Dawn, but I think that this movie has a lot more going on than From Dusk Till Dawn did. Not to say that From Dusk Till Dawn isn't a hell of a fun time at the movies, because it is. But it was one thing that becomes another thing. This movie is about 20 different things, all rolled into one. And even the idea of the vampires, they're another disenfranchised group as well. And I just, I've seen this movie 3 times now, and I find it compelling and fascinating on so many levels.
You know what? I love in
That's
vampire
great.
movies when they introduce something that really hasn't been there before. And at the risk, I'm going to say a philosophical thing here connected to the movie about one of the characters. So forgive me if this comes across as a minor spoiler, but I'm just giving you a heads up. But the main antagonist of the film, the big bad vampire, his motivation, I've never seen this. He wants to spread peace and love.
Yes, he does.
I mean, it's just like, I've never seen that kind of really thing in a movie, particularly in a vampire movie before. And as a result, the thing gets an A Cinemascore. Chris, again, were you surprised, or did you already know that like no horror film had ever gotten an A Cinemascore? And what do you think about the fact that Sinners is the movie to do it?
Well, as the resident horror expert on this show, I was blown away. Well, I feel like this makes sense that this is the one to do it because of everyone talking about, I don't even know how to classify this film.
Right.
This just transcends genre. This just has so many things to say. I think that's excellent that they got this score. And Ryan Coogler, I mean, is just remarkable. How many films, too, can say that they were inspired by Puss in Boots?
I
and
watched
have
that video this weekend. That was
I love it so much. I love how much he loves that movie. I think it's great. You
and
can't
the
see
guy
it.
interviewing him goes, the red eye.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, yes. I think it's wonderful. I think the other thing here that is very important to note too is you can make an incredible film. You can make something that is wonderful, but if people don't go see it, it's just kind of like shouting into the void, right? And this was another example of Warner Brothers doing really excellent marketing. They did digital pushes based on zip codes to get people to go out further. They really pushed this movie well. And I think this is something they need to do moving forward so they can continue to see numbers like this. Because I think the Deadline article goes on to say this is the first time in a decade they have 2 films that are grossing over 40 mil or something at the same time.
Oh, wow.
Or something interesting like that. It's the 8th time they've dominated the Easter box office on the weekend. This is a really big win for them overall as well, just not only critically, but financially. And they needed both.
Oh yeah.
So-
Especially coming off of Minecraft, this is this is a good week to be Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
And it's been a while since we've been able to say that.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Sinners becomes the first horror film. And as Rob pointed out, it is much more than just that, but it becomes the first genre horror film to ever score an A Cinemascore, which is wild to me that none has ever had them before. And this is the film to do it. And I think it's appropriate that this is the film to do it. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's talk about this for a second, shall we? While Warner Brothers is popping bottles right now over the success of Sinners, they are still in the midst of the hazy hangover, celebrating what a massive win Minecraft has been. A movie that I don't even think is all that good. Not terrible, has its moments, but not all that good. But man, you cannot underestimate the success of the film, as it become the biggest opening ever at the box office for a video game adapted material, beating out Super Mario Bros. 3. But can it actually catch Super Mario Bros. 3 overall as the highest grossing video game adaptation of all time? Maybe. As in just its 3rd week, we've now seen Minecraft cross the $700 million mark, as we see here on Box Office Mojo. Domestically and internationally, like Ray often points out, you'd like to see a nice balance there. It's made $344 domestically, $376 internationally, for a worldwide total of $720 million.
Bruh.
Now, just as a bit of an aside, that means they still need to make about $600 million more to catch Mario Brothers, and seeing as it made 41 million this weekend on another 47% drop, you can probably expect another 40 to 50% drop next week. I'm going to go out on a limb right now. I still think it can make $1 billion. I do not think it's going to catch Mario Brothers.
No.
I don't think it has the same amount of rewatchability, but whether it catches Mario Brothers or not, this is an unmitigated win. And even though it's not for everybody, again, I'm not the biggest fan of it. You cannot help but be thrilled for it with the success that it had. And as Chris just kind of pointed out a second ago, man, Warner Brothers needed that win. And they followed it up with Sinners. So good for them. Anyway, Chris, Minecraft passes the $720 million mark in its third week. How impressive is that? What do you think of its chances of getting to the $1 billion mark now? What are its chances of catching Mario Brothers? How do you see it?
It's very impressive. Man, Abdi and DeLuca had big sighs of relief this week. You know, they're just like, oh, we're doing all right. We're doing okay. I feel like there's actually quite a bit of potential for this to hit, you know, that $1 billion mark, because this, like we've talked about before, this is a very toyetic, obviously, movie. This is got mass appeal, not just with kids, but with people who enjoy Minecraft. People are making this an event, whether we like that or not, is up for discussion as well. I'm not super mad about people yelling chicken jockey in a theater, but some of the other things that are happening, have a little decorum, guys. Have fun, but, you know, don't make it so those kids who have to clean up after you have a really bad time. That's rude. But I think that this actually could catch Mario potentially. It's not a very good movie. It's fun. It's kind of fun and kind of stupid. And those are things that I like. Stupid fun is great. Yeah, every now and then you need a palate cleanser, right? Especially after this weekend. I would go see Minecraft again, honestly, to just kind of free up my brain from The Last of Us. But I do think there is a high grossing potential here because of how many people are seeing this over and over again and making this to be this weird, wacky thing to go attend. It's just whether or not other people are going to stick around to go see it. But I think this is going to continue to have legs.
Rob, what do you think about this? Minecraft crosses $720 million in its third week. Its chances of getting $1 billion and its chances of getting to Super Mario Brothers.
Well, one like you, I don't think it's going to catch Super Mario Brothers because new movies are coming out.
Yeah.
You know, they were lucky that they had a window of time before like Thunderbolts hit. But I think it definitely probably will cross $1 billion. And to be honest, while the movie's not really for me, I want it to cross $1 billion because that's healthy for the rest of the industry.
Absolutely.
And you know, we want the entertainment industry to be strong because if Minecraft does well, that allows Abdi and DeLuca to take more chances on filmmakers like Ryan Coogler, so we get a Sinners.
Yeah.
And all of it is part of the same. It all works synergistically for. And look, there's a lot that's been talked about, and I was talking about this the other night about Ryan Coogler's deal with Sinners. Which is an interesting deal. A lot of people aren't down with it, but I think more and more filmmakers, if the studios are betting on filmmakers to get original IP out, and you're going to get movies like Sinners, it's great for everybody. It's because Sinners 2 was good to get people in the theater, and I think it's going to have a great second weekend because word of mouth is strong. I mean, I hope it has a great second weekend.
Yeah, I think it will.
Because horror traditionally falls precipitously in week 2. I don't think this film's going to have that. I don't think it might.
Well, I mean, to your point, I think the word of mouth has been bonkers. As a matter of fact, give me 1 second here. If we go over and take a look, as of right now, it's not just the Earthing. Remember, Sinners has now been out for a number of days. Sinners is still holding, with 256 reviews, is still holding a 98% critic rating and a almost completely identical 97% audience rating. So the word of mouth on this is going to be super strong. I'm expecting to see a sub 55% drop in its second weekend.
I think so too. I mean, this movie is a full meal. You know, it's thought provoking. It has so much to say on so many different levels. So when you go see this movie, you know, when you see a horror movie, you come out and it's a visceral thrill. But this movie has a lot going on. And if you want to concentrate on, I mean, having seen it multiple times, I still find stuff to like. Even just shots, marveling at just a shot. Like, wow, that's great.
Yeah, we don't want to relitigate Sinners, which
yeah, no.
we could probably get on talking about all day.
But the same thing, I just think of this whole thing as Warner Brothers having this 1-2 punch. And Minecraft, look, Minecraft was a movie that they developed for a long time. pre-Abdi and DeLuca,
Yeah.
but they were the administration, the
That
regime
greenlit
that
it.
greenlit it. And so it's a win. It's a win for the studio. It's a win for Warner Brothers. It's a win for movie going in general.
You know what I don't hear anymore? I don't hear those DeLuca and Abdi are getting fired pretty soon. I don't hear those whispers anymore. And I mean, they can come back really fast, but as of right now, they're living it pretty good. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? The Minecraft movie has crossed $720 million at the box office in its third week. What do you think its chances are now of becoming the $1 billion club entry? And in a more of a long shot, what do you think of its chances of catching the Super Mario Brothers movie for the biggest video game adaptation box office of all time? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, we're going to take a second here and play a little game of What's More Likely. A little bit earlier today, I jumped on the community post tab on our YouTube channel and I asked our viewers, hey, do you guys have a What's More Likely scenario for us? Bunch of you fired some stuff in. We picked out 5 or 6 of them. We're going to cover them now. So, Jonathan, what do we got up first?
First up, Anthony Hernandez says, Rob, what's more likely, Odyssey or Dune 3, which will make more at the box office?
Ooh, that's tough. I'm going to go with, well, we've seen how much Dune 1 and Dune 2 make.
Yeah.
We know what they're going to make.
We've got some framework for that.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say Christopher Nolan is going to make more because he's giving something to you film goers that they haven't seen before. Look, it's either going to be a huge success or it's going to be his first whiff. That's what I think. I don't think it's going to be, I really, because this is a big swing he's taking.
Yeah.
Sword and sandal, epic poetry. He's going all Homer. He's going in deep. And I like the potentiality of the success he could have, but I also think maybe people aren't going to be down with epic poetry, you know, and it really depends on how it goes. So I think the potential is, yes, he could make more money than Dune 3.
I think it's more likely that Dune 3 will be the better film, although I think they're both going to be amazing. But listen, we're coming off of Oppenheimer being almost $1 billion film.
I know.
Yeah.
And now Christopher Nolan is going to go into epic fantasy with a cast to kill for?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to tell you, while I think Dune, like you said, we have kind of a template now of an understanding of the money that Dune movies will make. And they make good money, but they're not for everybody. And even though I think Dune 2 is the greatest film of the last 10 years, but oh yeah, people are going to be swooping up the tickets for Odyssey. I absolutely, I don't know if this is going to be a $1 billion film, has a good chance. I'm going to say it's more likely that the Odyssey makes more money out of the two. Chris, what about you?
Odyssey. That's what I would go with. Just for all the same reasons that Rob was talking about. I kept nodding over here like, yeah, if it's a great film and people show up, hell yeah, especially riding those Oppenheimer coattails. And also just because of my own personal bias against the Dune films.
All right, what's next?
Kanish says, Chris, what's more likely to get canceled first, Batman 2 or Blade?
Oh, well, we already know that Batman is getting
Yeah.
canceled because it's been confirmed by
John Campea confirmed it.
Yeah, that's what's going to happen. Blade getting canceled. Also, can you cancel something that's not happening? I don't know. It's Blade. I'm sorry, Ray. I'm going to get another text from him being like, why did you do that to me? Why do you want to always hurt me? But it's going to be Blade.
Yeah,
Blade will be the one.
it's more likely Blade gets canceled because I think they're already on the precipice of maybe getting canceled. Now, we've heard some positive movement on Blade lately. Kevin Feige kind of doubled down saying he's committed to it. We've heard that they are actually actively looking for some directors behind the scene. They might even have the director they want. Well, that we already discussed that. But I just don't see the Batman getting canceled. I mean, like, even if like Matt Reeves stepped away from it, I still think they make the Batman 2. Now, do I think it's 100% that they'll make Batman 2? No, but I think it's way more likely that Blade gets canceled. Rob?
Unfortunately, vampires do come back from the dead, but I think that Blade 2 is probably going to be on the chopping block before Batman 2 is. Also, remember, Batman 2 also spawned the Penguin, which is
major
another,
hit for them.
you add to that the success. And I don't know how people are now going to clip out comments from this show and, You've now said two contradictory things about Batman 2. But yes, I do think that Batman 2 will probably endure. Although I have to say, I am still, especially seeing Mahershala Ali in the Jurassic Park Rebirth
He actually
trailers.
looks really good in that.
I'm like, that bro, he can play Blade. I want to see Mahershala Ali play Blade really badly. I keep thinking about the opening of the first Blade with Wesley Snipes, and if you had something comparable with Mahershala Ali just finally kicking ass.
What about that post-credit scene where Mahershala Ali shows up in Sinners?
That part was dope.
Powerful stuff.
Dude,
All right, what's next?
It was like you just stepped into a wider world.
it's true.
Let's see. We got cannot read that, but anyway. John, what's more likely, Avengers Secret Wars or Avatar Fire and Ash will dethrone Avatar 1 as highest grossing movie of all time?
I mean, okay, look, so it's really hard to even have a guess with Avengers Secret Wars because Avengers Secret Wars potential depends a lot on how good or bad Doomsday is. Like if Doomsday is great, I mean, then the potential for Secret Wars kind of goes through the roof.
Yeah.
But Avatar Fire and Ash at the same time, while it's the only question with Avatar Fire and Ash is will it be a $2 billion film, right? There's no question. Nobody's wondering if Avatar 3 is going to join the $1 billion club. That's not even a question. The question is, will it be a $2 billion film? I don't see Fire and Ash, though, hitting $3 billion. I mean, the second Avatar film was great, but it took a little bit of a decline, which is fine because there's really no higher to go. Still one of the highest grossing films of all time. So I'm going to say, even though there's still a lot of ground to cover, I'm going to say that it's more likely that Secret Wars will, but that answer can change really quickly after we see Doomsday. Chris, what about you?
I feel like maybe Secret Wars. I don't know. I feel like people are getting less interested in the Avatar films. And that could just be the people I'm talking to. Where people weren't as interested in that second one or had quips about it or qualms with it afterwards and then kind of started picking at it and deciding what they didn't like about it. I just feel like I haven't heard the same kind of excitement about the next Avatar film as I have about the potential for where Marvel's going. But, it all comes down to good movies, obviously.
Now, just for the record, Avatar 2 did make $2.3 billion.
Oh, it did well. Yeah. I'm just saying a whole bunch of people who saw it were like, I don't know if I like this one. I don't know about it. And I feel like there's just a little decline. Again, that could be my own personal bubble.
Rob, which one has the best chance to beat Avatar?
I'm going to say, because again, we have two Avatar movies and we see what they've done at the box office. The first two Avengers movies were, $1 billion plus. But I'm going to go with Avatar Fire and Ash because you do have Mordor, you do have the Kraka-Doom, you do have the Na'vi orcs that don't believe in Iowa. So I'm going to say it's going to be the Return of the King of the Avatar movies, and it's going to crush.
All right, what's next?
We got Lil Goozy says, Rob, what's more likely after episode 2 of The Last of Us? Viewership will either increase or decrease by the end of the season.
That's a great question.
That's a great question. Look, I think a good show is a good show. And I think that the emotional stakes, if you can elicit an emotional response from an audience, they're going to come back. And I think a lot of people are going to want to know, where is this going to go? And I think where it goes is interesting enough that people are going to keep coming back to the show. And I think the viewership will increase.
Yeah, I am also going to say I think it's going to increase. The comps to this are, okay, your seemingly main protagonist dies very early in your show. That kind of happened in Game of Thrones.
I was going to say, look at the Red Wedding.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, even
Sean
prior
Bean.
to Red Wedding.
Oh,
right?
and Sean Bean, yeah.
Yeah, Sean Bean. I remember watching Game of Thrones because I never read the books. I remember watching Game of Thrones season 1. Sean Bean was my favorite character. Ned Stark was my absolute favorite character. It's an ensemble show, but he was the lead. He was clearly the lead. And then they cut off his head at the end of season 1. And I remember thinking, well, I'm done with this show. But I wasn't. I kept going back. Even though I said I'm done with this show. Red Wedding is another great example. I talked about this on the post-game show last night. One of my favorite videos on YouTube ever is this collection of reactions, not reactors, but like real reactions of people filming their friends in their
Yep.
living room watching the Red Wedding. You've seen this video,
love that
collection.
video. I love that
and
video.
like people like literally screaming, no, fuck this show. I'm never watching this show again. Guess what? They all came back and kept watching. The viewership just kept going up. Another comp that somebody brought up to me last night was Glenn in Walking Dead.
Yep.
Yeah.
That after Glenn got offed, the viewership went down.
Mm-hmm.
My counter to that is, I feel like The Last of Us, there were a bunch of people, even though the ratings were still high at the time,
Walking Dead.
Walking Dead, even though the viewership was still high at the time, I feel like a lot of people, including myself, were almost getting ready to be over the show already. Like that didn't happen until season 6 or 7 of Walking Dead. I can't remember which one. It was either 6 or 7. We're talking about like the Ned Stark thing, season 1. Last of Us thing, very beginning of season 2. So, I mean, really, I'm going to be curious to see what the answer is. I don't definitively know if it'll go up and down, but my guess is, it's still going to go up. Because like you said, Rob, once you really touch emotions in people, they tend to come back. If for no other reason, now they're going to want to see Abby get hers. But anyway, Chris, what do you think is more likely? After the death of Joel, does the viewership go up or down?
I think there's the potential of decrease. I really do, especially for people who didn't play the games. There have been so many, I'm out, I'm done, I can't believe they killed him, that I've seen online. And for those of us who played the game, we knew this was coming, so it was, I'm in.
But even beyond, there's been so many things where it's just like the event, this and that, not just from us, that you would think most people would be like, oh, something bad's going to happen.
Yeah.
I guess not.
But a bunch of people did not know what was going into this.
They're
and
called losers.
they all freaked out about it. So I really feel like, honestly, I think people are going to wait on watching episode 3 to see if we get another, is there a reason to stick around? Because this is the problem with the Glenn situation. Yes, that show was also starting to circle the drain, at least in my opinion. When Glenn died, that's when I left. But it was also another, why does anyone want to live in this world? Why does anyone want to be among the Walking Dead? There is no hope in this show. This is terrible. I don't want to continue watching this torture porn or all this just like sadistic, no one's ever going to be happy kind of stuff, right? The Last of Us, with what they did in the first season and changing some of those stories and giving us that wonderful Nick Offerman episode, reminded us, hey, you can find beauty and love and goodness in this terrible world if you really work for it.
Right.
And that's what they're going to have to deliver for a lot of people to stick with this show right now. And unfortunately, I mean, for me, I love this plot, but we are going to see Ellie go down this very, very dark path. And I don't know if that's going to be what some viewers are in for. I think a lot of folks right now are wanting escapist television. For me, I think that the escapist television I want is vengeful. So I'm in for this, but I'm interested to see how other people are going to feel about it. I think this one is going to be pretty divisive.
Rob?
I think, well, I said that I think that, but Chris makes a good point. I mean, it's not like, I would say that it's not like this is going to get happy.
No.
You know, but on the other hand, the way that they've been able to bring so much more to it than just what happened in the game, they've made it more nuanced. Like that episode last night had so much more going on in it because we could change perspectives and watch things happening concurrently. And man, if they keep doing that, it's going to be a hell of a show to watch. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Again, and I've heard the people say too, like after last night, saying, "Oh, can't believe they killed him. I'm never going to watch this again." It's just that I heard them all say the same thing after Game of Thrones.
Right.
Season 1 ended. I heard so many people say that after the Red Wedding.
Well, the thing
We'll
is,
see.
if entertainment is good, you know, it doesn't matter what happens if the entertainment, if the show is good and the writing in this. What I mean, the fact that they are shooting for the moon in terms of quality, and they're aspiring to a lot, and that's what we want from entertainment, especially genre entertainment.
By the way, somebody just brought up in the live chat too, and we Jeffrey Wright hasn't even showed up yet.
Right.
I'm so excited for that.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on here.
All
What's next?
Phantom. Chris, which video game movie is more likely to be reattempted? Assassin's Creed or Warcraft?
Ooh,
That's a good one.
That's a great question. Honestly, just for my own personal bias, I would want Assassin's Creed. There's more stuff that you can kind of do. You can play with so many different timelines, so many different characters and everything. World of Warcraft definitely puts you in a very specific fantasy realm. That being said, I love Blizzard. All you guys do great stuff. But I think Assassin's Creed would be the more likely one because you have more options.
Did they say, let me relook at this real quick. Oh, movie, okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna. Oh wow, that's. I agree with everything Chris said, but I'm gonna lean. I think it's more likely Warcraft gets another go at it. I just think as a world, it creates a lot of open playground for a filmmaker to come in and kind of tell a story. Now you can go and say, "Oh my God, imagine them doing a Lich King thing, tell the story of Arthas, and like all like that would be incredible." But you don't even have to do that. You can just go into the world of Warcraft and tell whatever kind of story you wanted in.
Yeah.
There's just, it's such an open playground that I think maybe that makes it more likely. I don't know. Anyway, Rob, what about you?
I'm going to go, look, I'm like with Chris, I mean, I think Assassin's Creed, there's so many things in terms of what kind of a movie it is. It's more of an action, like a John Wick in medieval times or something, if you wanted to do it like that. But I do think Warcraft gives you more ability to tell different kinds of stories. And it really depends. I mean, unfortunately, the Warcraft movie was kind of an amalgamation of a bunch of different stuff, and it didn't have enough of its own identity. But on the other hand, I thought the new Dungeons and Dragons movie that was led by Chris Pine would have done
so fun.
That movie was so much fun, and it didn't. So I think probably Warcraft will probably get an attempt first, but I think it would be easier to make an Assassin's Creed movie that would be box office gold.
All right. What's next?
All right, our last one, and I'd rather see Assassin's Creed as a series.
Ooh,
Me too.
true.
Dr. Jax Knoll says, what's more likely, Thunderbolts makes over 500 million or has a greater than 90% critic meter score, John?
You know, I think this is actually the easiest question of the day because everything I'm hearing from Thunderbolts is that it's quite great. And so I think getting that 90% critic score is actually something that is very within the realm of possibility. The problem, though, for when it comes to the financial side is that Thunderbolts can break even and make a little bit of money. But at the end of the day, and I think positive word of mouth will give it good legs, but at the end of the day, it is still a bunch of B and C list level characters that people have already seen. Like some people say, well, John, Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah. But with the Thunderbolts, we've already seen all of these characters in sub-supporting roles. Like Guardians of the Galaxy, all these characters were new. We never saw them as B level on screen. All these characters, we have seen them as sidekick or B or C level characters in the movies. And that's going to be tough. So I think it can make over 500 million, but I think it's more likely that it gets a 90% or higher critic score. Chris, what about you?
I feel like the 500 is more likely, mostly because that number makes more sense with a high critic score. But also, critics tend to be, even when we have a really fun, great genre film, there tends to be people who are still going to poo-poo on it to be very like, I am a cinephile kind of critic. So I feel like the money would happen. I'm going with that.
Rob?
I think I'm going to go with what Chris said, only because I do think it's more likely, and we're talking worldwide gross. It's not domestic.
Yeah.
It's 500 million.
That's how I
think
viewed
that's,
it.
and I think that Marvel has a bit of a whiff about it, and I think that critics are not going to be quick to give. They're looking for reasons to not like it, as opposed to us, which are looking for reasons to like it. So I think that the critics are going to be rougher on the movie, but because it's going to be good, I think it is more likely it's going to make 500 million worldwide.
All right, guys. And that wraps up this little installment of What's More Likely. Thank you to everybody who sent in questions. And once again, guys, keep your eyes open on the YouTube channel for when you get a notification of when we're asking for questions. We only usually keep it open for about 20 minutes because we had so many responses, but keep your guys' eyes open and maybe you'll see your submission on the next round. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Andor starts tomorrow. The reviews are out. Not just reviews, and this is key, of the first 2 episodes. Many Star Wars shows have had some positive initial reactions come out, but what we find out is they're always just based on the critics having seen the first 2 episodes, or maybe 3. And listen, they don't have a problem starting their shows with promise. Obi-Wan started with promise. That ended up pretty disappointing. Ahsoka started with promise. That ended up being crap. Hell, even the Acolytes first episode wasn't all that bad, and then it went right to the crapper. Book of Boba Fett started off looking, oh, this could be it. Oh, no. This is really bad. So they always have, but with Andor, They let the critics see the entire series, the entire season. And the response has been nutty. As a matter of fact, before I read the reactions online, a friend of mine who has quite similar tastes in Star Wars to me, except he liked Obi-Wan and Ahsoka a little bit more than I did, because I didn't like those at all. So he liked, but other than that, we have pretty similar tastes in Star Wars. And this is what he wrote to me, having finished the season, before I saw any of the other reactions. He wrote to me, "This isn't just the best Star Wars show of all time. It's on my list now of the greatest shows of all time, period. It is a stunning achievement. It's not just the best Star Wars show of all time. It's now one of the greatest shows of all time, period. It's a stunning achievement." Okay, so I read that. I thought, wow, he really liked it. Now, I'm sure no one else is going to like it that much, but hopefully the reviews will be good. Everybody is saying the same thing.
Yep.
Let's go over and look. Remember, these all people saw the entire series. Tom Bacon wrote, "I had the privilege of seeing Andor season 2 in advance, and I can tell you this, it is good. The third arc in particular is a solid contender for my favorite Star Wars story ever. Seriously, cannot wait for everybody to see this." Now, to me, them's are fighting words. Nothing touches the original trilogy, never even suggests that. But he's saying that the third movie, remember, they're breaking into 4 parts like that, that the third part might be his favorite Star Wars thing ever? Anyway, the Maliorian writes, "I had the absolute honor of seeing Andor season 2 in its entirety, and I'm absolutely blown away. This is, without question, the best Star Wars that has ever been made." Again, fighting words. "Incredible performances, deep storytelling, amazing spectacle. It truly has it all. You're not ready." All right. Then from Empire Magazine, Eamon Warman wrote, "Andor season 2 episodes 1 through 5 are good, but it kicks into another gear entirely with episode 6, and it rarely lets up. It's the standard by which all future Star Wars will be measured. Superb TV." Brennan Hodges wrote, "Andor season 2 is an exhilarating and ethically probing revolutionary spy thriller, less a series of 4 movies than an intricately designed season of Star Wars on the nature of fascism and the need for rebellion. In all its forms, one of the best seasons of TV in years." Not just one of the best seasons of Star Wars television.
Right.
One of the best seasons of TV in years.
Clearly, they've never watched Cheers.
Jermaine Lucier, our friend over at Gizmodo, right? "I've seen all of Andor season 2. And by the way, Jermaine, there's a lot of Star Wars TV he does not like. "I've seen all of Andor season 2, and it's both Star Wars at its absolute best and a triumph of storytelling in general. I cried, I cheered, I laughed, I gasped. It's smart, sophisticated, propulsive, entertaining, and hugely resonant. Everything you want and more. It's a miracle. It's a miracle." Jacob wrote, "Andor season 2 is another tremendous season of TV from Tony Gilroy. Quite structurally and narratively different from season 1, but still very, very effective in creating a devastatingly powerful and heartbreaking season 2. Diego Luna joins the echelon of top stars performances here easily." And I'll just read the one more. Raphael wrote, "I've seen all of Andor season 2, and it's not just the best Star Wars show, but the best TV show I've seen all year, period. Utterly riveting, emotionally devastating storytelling. It makes not only Rogue One better, but even Rebels better." I don't know what that means.
Yeah, wow.
But here's the thing. After the initial message I got, and after I read that, I reached out to a couple of other people I know saw it, and they just are straight up losing their minds. And that one thing the one critic said, it's like, "You're not ready," was echoed to me once or twice. Like, "You're not ready." You like, I know, like, I think the first season of Andor, I've gone on record, I stand by it. The first season of Andor is simply the best thing that's ever come out of Star Wars other than the original trilogy. And there's a number of things I love outside of the original trilogy. Certain things anyway. So, but I think Andor is simply it. Andor is the gold standard after, New Hope, Empire, Return of the Jedi. After that, it's Andor. So for people to tell me who know that that's how I feel about Andor season 1, saying, John, you're not even ready for this. Like, you're just simply not ready. We get the equivalent of 4 movies starting tomorrow. Rob, you're hearing these reviews. Number one, what do you think about the reviews you're hearing? Where's your expectation level? And have you heard from anybody? Because I know you probably know a lot of people who've seen it. What is it you're thinking?
Well, everybody's saying the same thing. I haven't heard it's mid. I haven't heard anybody say that. Everybody without exception are over the moon about this. The thing is, it kind of makes me sad in the sense that this is Star Wars. And from the very beginning, anybody who purchased Star Wars should have been making this kind of programming from the get. And I find that the idea of getting an Academy Award nominated writer-director who already filled in and filled in the gaps in Rogue One, which is generally considered to be the best Star Wars movie that Disney put out, to have this person come back in and bring his point of view, this should be par for the course in terms of these big franchise IP properties. You get somebody who's basically left alone. He's not part of the Star Wars corporate machine. He's over there in Europe shooting on practical locations. They talked about not using the volume. He did a great explanation at Star Wars Celebration talking about by using the volume, you have to make your show backwards. And I totally agree with that. You have people that really know what they're doing, that are allowed to do what they do best, and you get this. And to me, this is what we all want. It's so amazing to me to hear, we're all so shocked that, oh my God, Star Wars is good again. But it's not just good, it's great. Whereas Star Wars began, when I saw Star Wars when I was 10 years old, it was literally life-changing. It changed Hollywood. It changed the perception of what fantasy films could be in the theater. I mean, Star Wars is a very, very high bar, and we've been dealing with mediocre Star Wars for so long. Star Wars looks like it's finally been put in the place that it started, which I find so interesting. Oh, finally it's come full circle to where it began. I mean, it's like, to me, Star Wars and Empire have always been the high bar, and to see it come back around is delightful. I can't wait to see this. And for all of us that loved Andor in the first place, and people were like, no, it's not really Star Wars, it's boring, I don't like it. I love seeing us all vindicated.
By the way, I just want to read a few more, because I went over to Rotten Tomatoes. I went to their top critics section on Rotten Tomatoes. So here's just a couple more. So The Observer wrote, the second season somehow eclipses the first season. How? In an impressive fashion, building a masterful narrative arc that is undeniable in its sorry, I'm trying to figure out which ones I want to read here.
You know what's interesting about these? There's no Jedi in this show.
Well,
there's no...
Maybe. I'm still wondering about Luthen.
Well, I mean, he could be... But the thing is, that's not the focus. The focus is the wars part of Star Wars.
Right.
It's a spy thriller. They're just saying,
Okay, sorry, I lost my monitor. I got it back now. Hold on a second. The USA Today wrote, the second season is a deeply affecting narrative about love, sacrifice, and... Okay, it's up there. Sorry, I'm losing it on my screen. I don't know why I'm losing it on my screen, but you've got it up on the monitor over there. Sorry.
You want me to read them?
Yeah, go ahead and read the USA Today one. Sorry, I keep losing it.
The second season is a deeply affecting narrative about love, sacrifice, and belief that the desperately dark, even if Star Wars fans know that eventually the good guys will win.
All right. And then, sorry, I got it back. Daily Beast wrote, thrillingly intricate, suspenseful, tragic, and hopeful. It fulfills the promise of the galaxy far, far away, telling a uniquely nuanced, mature, and gripping story that's at once distinct from and yet inherently wedded to the Skywalker saga. And the Times wrote, despite a bigger budget, the show still feels organic and lived in. That was one of the things we loved most about the first season of Andor.
Yep.
Anyway, Chris, you're hearing these reviews. You're seeing what's being said. It's hitting us tomorrow. What do you think about it? And again, got to just double down on this with everybody. This is not like a lot of other Star Wars shows where the reviewers were only given the first 2 or 3 episodes. All these people saw the entire series, and now they're reviewing it as a whole. What do you think about it, and what's standing out to you the most when you see this?
Well, I think it was so smart of Disney to do that because we all have this kind of taste in our mouth now of, well, yeah, the first 3 episodes are fine, but we constantly get let down by most of these
always falls
shows.
apart. Yeah.
So I think that was very, very smart. I love how enthusiastic people have been about this, but honestly, I don't need to hear how great this is from other people. I couldn't give a shit because I get Ben Mendelsohn again, and we get Kino coming back somehow. What? That's all I need. I don't care about anything else. As I've said many times, I am very excited to have Andor come into his own and to become the more interesting person in his own show. And one of the things I have enjoyed from people's reviews is saying how he really steps into this one, how he becomes the character that we root for in Rogue One and everything. I'm excited to see that journey as opposed to, hey, there's this guy who things happen to. I'm excited to see him take some agency and start making moves himself.
I'm still hoping that they'll do some kind of a recut or an extended version of Rogue One that is tailored to fit even closer with what Andor is. I don't think they're going to do that. By the way, I've not heard that. This is just a thing I'd like.
Or then again, by the end of Andor season 2, which leads into the events of Rogue One, maybe it just so seamlessly fits into
That's
Rogue
what
One that
people
they don't
have
need to
said.
do
So
it. Here's the question I have. So I'm planning on doing a post-game show, right? Andor season 2 debuts tomorrow at 6 p.m. with the first 3 episodes. Remember, it's 4 weeks, 3 episodes each week, representing 1 year leading up to the events of Rogue One. So it spans 4 years. But I don't know. Okay, it drops at 6 p.m. tomorrow night, Pacific Standard Time, 9 p.m. Eastern. I don't know what time to schedule my post-game show for, because it's 3 episodes. Are they 25-minute episodes? Are they 45-minute episodes? Are they hour-long episodes?
Just make it 9 o'clock. Just you got time to watch.
Yeah,
them
make it
and
9
eat.
o'clock,
Michael
maybe?
Gonzalez seems to think all the episodes are around 50 minutes. I don't know if that's confirmed though. Hey, real quick, this is not Yavin, is it not? Is it not? This is Yavin.
That's
base?
probably Yavin. Yeah, because remember, this
Look
is
at
just in the immediate years leading up to
Right.
things. So they probably had that base on Yavin for a little while.
Yeah.
I want to address something real quick because people are like, Chris, you just spoiled the Kino thing. Andy Serkis confirmed this in 2023. Like, what?
Which part did he
What?
confirm?
Of like, he's going to somehow be seen in season 2.
Oh, right. Yeah,
That's
Andy
not a
Serkis
spoiler,
himself.
y'all.
Yeah,
That's
Andy
not a
Serkis.
spoiler.
We're just telling you what
Roll
Andy
up.
Serkis said publicly.
Yeah.
That's it.
I'm not like, you know what happens? He's the one who did this. Oh my gosh. He's Snoke.
He's
You know what? He could be Snoke.
He even talked about that in interviews when he was like, am I going to confuse people? Because they all were real confused by Snoke. I don't
Wouldn't that be
understand.
funny if his character eventually becomes
Like the clone
yeah.
model.
genetically used for the cloning of Snoke? Anyway, guys, the question is for you. What do you think about this? I mean, Chris is absolutely right. This was very smart on Disney's part to give these critics the full season because people like me has become very jaded. It's like, okay, great. Yeah, the first couple of episodes are good. Yeah, we've seen that a lot, and the shows turn out to be crap. This is the first time we're getting the full ones out. What do you think about the responses we're seeing? I cannot wait for this. I'm so excited about it. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts.
RSK says Circus is playing twins. Snoke and Stats.
That's clever.
That's pretty good.
That's clever.
Pretty good.
All right, guys. With that all down, we will bid adieu to Chris Carr and to Robert Meyer Burnett. Thank you so much, guys. Great job as always. And we are now going to move on to the most important part of our show, which is, of course, taking your live comments and questions. Once again, you do that by sending it into our tip link simply at www.streamelements.com/JohnCampea/tip. All right, with that said, Jonathan, what do we got up first?
We got Nicholas. After people sent in glowing reviews about the Wheel of Time's 3rd season, I decided to check it out. I didn't like the 1st season, but I soldiered through. The 2nd season was a big step up. But dude, the 3rd season was absolutely awesome. Best on TV right now.
Again, I felt the exact same way about seasons 1 and seasons 2. Like, I thought season 1 was all right. I mean, season 1 was okay. Season 2 was definitely an improvement. It was absolutely an improvement. But everybody's saying season 3 is great. I still haven't started on it. You know what? I think I might start on it tonight. because I'm now all caught up with everything else I was watching at the moment. So I might finally start that tonight. But yeah, everybody's saying it's just been fantastic. All right, what's next?
Dildar the Glorious says Sinners is without a doubt the best movie of the year. So with probably my favorite performance Michael B. Jordan has ever done. And can you believe the guy playing Sammy was his first acting credit? That guy has a bright future ahead of him.
I'm still just floored by that dude's voice. That dude's voice is something rich, man. It's crazy. I still think my favorite Michael B. Jordan performance is Fruitvale Station, but this was right up there. I mean, this was incredible as the two brothers who are twins with a lot of similarities, but each with very unique and subtle differences between them. He played it great. And yeah, I agree. He's, right as of right now, and it can change, but as of right now, I think Sinners is the best film of the year so far. All right, what's next?
Scott Tenorman says, a two-parter, I would love for Superman to hit 1 billion. He's my all-time favorite character, and crossing 1 billion means it's more likely that it's a high-quality movie, so I'll have more people to geek out with. Another Superman movie gets put in production. But like you say, there's a lot stacked up against DC, and historically, Supes does not blow up at the box office. Right now, I think it's in a really good position for 650 worldwide, but mediocre reviews or weak marketing, that number dramatically plummets.
Yeah, and again, listen, the people at Warner Brothers understand this. They know
They're in the
that
business.
they have a lot of hurdles to jump over with Superman. That's why I've said forever, and everybody tries to say, oh, no, John, no, I'm right. Warner Brothers is not looking at Superman as the first film in the cinematic universe. Everybody thinks way too small. They need Superman to be $1 billion film. No, they do not. You are a very small thinker if you think that. Warner Brothers is looking at the new DCU in a big picture kind of way. The important thing to Warner Brothers is not that Superman makes $1 billion. What's important to Warner Brothers is that maybe 4 or 5 out of the next 10 do make $1 billion. And they know the only way to do that with a brand that it is unimaginably damaged as the DC brand is right now, after the collapse of the DCEU, the only way to make $4 or $5 billion films over the next 10 is if Superman is great.
Yeah.
That's what they need. They don't need Superman to be $1 billion film. They don't need it. They'd like it to be, sure. But the number one mission of Superman is to change the narrative of DC and to change the public moviegoers' perception of DC films. They need Superman to be great. If it can make 500 million, wonderful. If it can make 600 million, wonderful. Obviously, they don't want it to flop. Like,
Sure.
they don't want it to make 200 million like The Flash did.
Yeah.
But they don't need this to be a $700 million film. And if you think they do, then you simply don't understand the movie business. Because they're not looking at Superman. They're looking at the start of a new cinematic universe, the start of a new studio. And they need it to go over well with people, because if it goes over well with people, guess what? Supergirl will make more money. If Superman is bad, oh my God, then Supergirl's in trouble. But if Superman is great, whether it makes 400 million, 500 million, 600 million, then the stage is set for Supergirl. And then if that's really good, it sets the stage for the next thing. And they're in a process right now where they've got to rebuild confidence and trust with the audience, a confidence and a trust that they spectacularly lost over the years. And now it's a fresh start, a brand new beginning, and they don't need Superman to be a $900 million film. They need Superman to be an 80% plus critic rating and an 80% plus audience rating. That's what they need, because they're thinking in terms of success of over the next 10 years, not in terms of success over the next 10 months. Anyway.
Also, my condolences to you, Scott, and your parents.
Oh, do you know Scott?
Yeah.
Oh.
No, it was a joke because his name was Scott Tenorman.
Oh, gotcha.
Scott Tenorman, Cartman cooked his parents in the episode. Remember?
I had no idea what you were talking about. What? Who?
South
What?
Park Deep Cut.
All right.
Yeah, South Park Deep.
All right. What's next?
All right, yeah. Brian O'Connor says, remember the streaming app Quibi? It was launched this month 5 years ago. honestly, I wasn't mad at the concept. When you consider how much time people spend on social media, it's fair to believe in the concept they were trying to go for. Rest in peace, Quibi.
But it showed. That's the problem. Look, I always give full marks to Quibi for trying something different, right? I always want to give credit to that, and I never want to discourage people from taking a risk and trying something different. But it was the classic, Grandpa saw the kiddies love the TikToks. Well, let's make our TV shows that way. What? Like, not understanding that there's a fundamental difference between those two things. Again, full credit for being willing to go out on a limb and trying something that nobody else was really doing. Gave him credit for that. But man, when you looked at the stuff they were produced, like, this is never going to work. And sure enough, it completely didn't.
What was their deal again? Was it like a 3-minute or
Like
10
just
minute?
all they did, like really short bite kind of things. Like, so they're trying to make narrative storytelling into social media content, and that they're two different things for a reason. Anyway, all right, what's next?
Anonymous says, "Hey John, what happened to the Ironheart series? Should be coming in June, but no teasers, trailers, or even pictures. It seems Disney's trying to hide this one. What do you think?"
You know what? When is Ironheart? When is that supposed to come out? I didn't know that it was supposed to come out in June.
June 24th
Yeah, June 24 of this year.
That's what they're saying?
of 2025.
It's like 2 months away.
You know, no promotion just means it's probably a bad series. I mean,
Now here's the thing. Remember, and I've said this before, even it's in the MCU, so we think of it in terms of movies. Television shows market differently than movies do. All right? Traditionally, television shows really start pushing their marketing much closer to their debut than movies do. Like, movies can really start pushing their marketing 3 to 5 months in advance. Television shows don't normally do that. They normally start their marketing much closer to it coming out. So I'm going to say it's not a time to panic about it at all. That being said, I still would have expected to have seen a little bit more by now. Listen, I'm not going to lie. I have zero interest in this series. I was super interested in Ironheart going into Black Panther Wakanda Forever, but that movie made me lose all my interest in the character. Kind of like the way Hawkeye did for me with Echo. Like, I was really interested in Echo, and then the way they handled Echo and Hawkeye made me go, I'm not interested in the show now. I still watched it and wasn't very good. So I gotta say, I'm more interested now in Wonder Man.
I am too, especially if they pull off the comedy. I hope they
Yeah,
have good
if
writers.
they can nail that, that could be pretty fun. But yeah, we'll see. All right, what's next?
We got Raymond, who says, in Sean Levy's Star Wars Starfighter, will Ryan Gosling be a TIE fighter, X-Wing fighter? Will he be force sensitive? Will Ryan Reynolds make a cameo to go back in time? What's the next chicken jockey or popcorn bucket moment? So many questions.
Yeah, well, let's stick to
We'll
the
stick
one.
to Star Wars.
I'm not expecting to see Ryan Gosling in a TIE fighter because not only is the Empire long gone, but at this point, the First Order is long gone.
Right.
And remember, this is 5 years after the fall of the First Order. So, or at least the big defeat that took place in the events of that horrible piece of garbage movie, The Rise of Skywalker. So I'm not expecting to see him in a TIE fighter. No, if this was more of an Imperial Age movie,
Yeah.
then I'd say, yeah, the idea of kind of like a Wedge Antilles story, right? Where Ryan Gosling, oh man, how great would Ryan Gosling be as like Wedge
as like a
Antilles?
Wedge.
Where he starts off as an Imperial TIE fighter, joins the rebellion, that kind of, I could see him as that too. But remember, they've already confirmed that this takes place 5 years after the events of The Rise of Skywalker. So yeah, we'll see.
I could see him something in like the ship, like that lady built for the Mandalorian.
Like a kind of like a
Like one of those-
That's a
kinda-
Naboo ship.
Yeah,
Like a hot
that thing
rod.
was fast.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be that either, but
it'll be fast.
it'll be something else. Yeah.
Can we say at least be fast?
It'll be fast. All right, what's next?
All right. Raymond Verrata, after all the good reviews, Ryan Coogler giving the Golden State. Oh, and Ryan Coogler giving the Golden State Warriors a private screening. I finally got to see Sinners. Such a slow burn. You don't need run pee to tell you when to pee. I'm glad it follows Fright Night vampire lore and not Twilight.
You know what? I don't even think it's a slow burn. I think it's got the narrative has a pretty rapid cadence. So, I mean, again, I love the film and I love a good slow burn. I'm not even sure it's a slow burn. It's pretty quick. Like one event quickly leads into another in the movie. So I'm not even sure I would qualify it as a slow burn. Anyway, glad you enjoyed it, man. All right, what's next?
Anonymous says, Abby sure does have a supportive, loving, and encouraging group of friends. Mine won't even help me move a couch.
Hey, listen. That's part of the reason why I think them starting the season, with that scene of all of those characters at the graveyard, burying all their friends and family that Joel killed. I think that's another big benefit of that, is that we know it was in a graveyard. Like, that's a blood oath. It was in that graveyard that they said they made a commitment. We're going to help you see this through. We can't do it right now, but we're going to help you see this through. And that kind of leads to that. But yeah, very, very loyal group of friends.
Yeah.
Which is going to lead to some tragedy. But anyway. All right, what's next?
Based K1 says, what's up, Campy crew? First time tipper. I went on my Regal app to see they're having an event showing some of the things studios showed at CinemaCon on Tuesday the 22nd and Thursday the 24th. Think I'll go to see what it's like.
Yeah, AMC is doing that as well. They're having an event where I think a couple of hours of content that they showed us at CinemaCon, they're going to show it at select screenings, select locations, showtimes at AMC and Regal. So if you want to go and see a bunch of the stuff that we got, I'm sure they're not going to show everything, but if you want to go and see a bunch of the stuff that they showed us at CinemaCon, because we saw a lot of stuff, look up your local movie theater listings. I thought it was only AMC, but I guess it's Regal as well. Look up in your local listings to see if you can find that, and I would highly recommend going to check that out. All right, what's next?
Garden Variety says, on the blizzard, the after show tells that it was a real blizzard and they would not have special effects for it as the weather came and they took advantage of it. Yes, that they could have fixed in post, but the fact that they shot in a real one, I give a pass.
Yeah, I mean, look, again, in the post show of The Last of Us, when they talked to the directors and the filmmakers, they I think it was Pedro Pascal who said it was actually a real snowstorm that was going on, and they shot in a real snowstorm. I still then believe that then if the next day when you're shooting that snowstorm isn't there, you still need to make it consistent, and that's where you bring in some, because putting in a little bit of weather isn't the hardest thing to do in post.
Yeah.
They should have corrected that in post to make it look consistent with when they were shooting in the bad weather. So again, full marks to them for shooting actually in bad weather and making it practical. But that's when you do use visual effects to correct some things when the weather wasn't good to make it feel more consistent. But that's just my thought. All right, what's next?
Garden Variety follows up. My issue, why did they leave the other two horses?
You know, somebody asked me that last night. How come when they're riding back, there's only two horses? I'm like, oh, yeah. I have no idea. Maybe the other two horses were like tauntauns and they froze to death. I don't know. But yeah, that's a really good question. Why were there only two horses coming back and not four? Good question. All right, what's next?
We got Captain Dr. Hawkeye. Damn crime in of itself that Charlie Cox hasn't once even been nominated for an Emmy for either Daredevil or Boardwalk. In my opinion, he's underrated pillar of the MCU. Technically speaking, he has had more actual screen time than any other Marvel character. Hashtag Emmy for Cox.
Okay, if you've watched me for any period of time, this is going back to the movie talk days. I love Charlie Cox. I mean, I've loved Charlie Cox ever since Stardust, which I think is the single most underrated film of all time. I think Stardust is the most underappreciated film ever. I don't think it's the best film ever, but I think it's the most underappreciated film ever. And Charlie Cox was great in that. I've loved him since then. And he was amazing in the Netflix run of Daredevil, and he was great in the Disney Plus run of Daredevil Born Again. That said, I've never felt that he deserved an Emmy. I mean, I think he's wonderful and he's great, but you don't just get Emmys for being wonderful and great. You have to have turned in better performances than the other people doing it. And as much as I love Charlie Cox and as much as I love Daredevil, I got to say, as a fan, I've never once thought that, oh, he should really get an Emmy nomination for this. I've to be honest with you, I've never felt that, as great as he's been. So I don't know. Maybe one could still be in his future, though. All right, what's next?
Swanson Burgundy says, Paul Rudd parodied his early 90s Nintendo commercial for the new console. I've not seen Death of a Unicorn, but is it a biopic for the time he killed and drank the blood and said unicorn of said unicorn? Because that's the only explanation for why he looks exactly the same.
Okay, you know what?
He's starting to look his age, though, now.
I was going to say, it was actually watching Death of a Unicorn that I said, you know what? I think he's finally
Our man's turned a corner.
starting to age a little bit. Paul Rudd is now 56 years old. In 4 years, he's going to be 60. And he finally looks 45.
It's the result of Quantumania.
Of what? Of Quantumania. That'll age you. He finally, at the age of 56, he finally looks like he's not in his 30s anymore. He finally looks like he's in his 40s. But it was Death of a Unicorn that I went, yeah, he kind of starts feeling like he's starting to age a little bit. And he looks fantastic, by the way. But yeah, man. And by the way, I am going to get a Nintendo Switch too. It's just weird. I have a Nintendo Switch and I have a PS5, and I find that there's that original image.
Yeah, 91 and now the new one.
It was crazy. You know what? When Ann and I think I said this on the show, when Ann and I were in Las Vegas for CinemaCon a few weeks ago, as I was getting a shower, I came out and she had just a TV channel on and they were playing Friends. And of course, Paul Rudd was a recurring character in Friends. And that we're looking at Paul Rudd. It's like, this episode has to be almost 20 years old. And he didn't look much different than he does today. So it was like, it is crazy.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
Omega Luke, hey, John and crew, regarding Daredevil season 2, I saw a really interesting idea that his army, quote unquote, is going to be the Hand. His costume being black matches and could lead down future avenues where Daredevil becomes manipulated by their ways and has to fight those demons too.
No, I don't buy it.
I don't think he turns to crime to solve crime.
No, I don't buy that. I don't know that's, don't get me wrong. I'm not denying the report. For all I know, it could be true, but as a fan speculating, I don't buy that. And I don't think just because he's going to wear a black outfit, that must mean it's the Hand. I don't know. That makes as much sense as saying that means he's going to become Batman. No, so again, I don't buy that at all, but it is there. It is in the narrative. You could go that way if they wanted to. So I'm certainly not going to say it's impossible. All right, what's next?
Chris says, rewatch season 1 of Andor, and it was even better than I remembered. Excited for tomorrow, but just read how they originally had a 5-season plan, but Disney made them wrap it up with 2 seasons. That's a shame, a damn shame. Best Star Wars since OG movies.
I don't know if that's true. I could be wrong, but I thought I remember hearing Tony Gilroy say that he never planned to do like beyond this for years and years and years and years. Maybe somebody else did, but as a matter of fact, Tony Gilroy has said that not only is this the end of Andor, but that's it for his run on Star Wars. Like he's going to do Andor, doesn't think it can get better he doesn't think he could do better than this, and that he's kind of done. So, I mean, so again, I don't know where you read that, and you could be 100% correct. I'm just saying that I thought I remember reading that Gilroy said he never planned on doing it for that long. But again, I might not be remembering that correctly.
You know what also happens tomorrow? The Thunderbolts review embargo
screening
lifts.
That's because tomorrow the review embargo lifts on Thunderbolts because they're actually doing public screenings. I believe like 15 public screenings across the country tomorrow.
That's a good sign, right? When they do something.
Yeah, it's a very good sign. I tried to get tickets for it. I found out about it like 3 hours after they launched it. And there's only 2 screenings in California. Both of them after 3 hours were already sold out. So I couldn't get tickets for it.
I'm trying to get them for May 1st right now, but...
All right. What's next?
Anonymous says, I know Brandon Sklenar is being rumored for Gunn's Batman, but as a huge Indiana Jones fan, I think he'd be a great choice to don the fedora in the inevitable reboot. He was excellent in 1923 playing Ford's son. I think he could be the next big leading man.
I like him. Now
He's
remember,
in Drop, right?
what's that?
Drop.
Yeah, and he's the co-star. He's the main male lead in Drop, and he's excellent in Drop. This guy's got all the movie star qualities about him. He really does. And I didn't like 1923 very much, but I liked him in it, even though I hated his character. But he was a great performance. He's really good in Drop. He's got a lot of the big movie star characteristics. Again, I don't think there's any real serious thing. The whole rumor of him being the next Batman, that's just because somebody asked, hey, would you play Batman? He said, oh, I would love to play Batman. But there's no real story out there that he might be Batman. But you're right. He would also be a pretty good Indiana Jones if they ever decided, or whenever they decide to finally get around and relaunching that. And there would be something kind of poetic about the fact that he plays Harrison Ford's son in one TV show, and then he inherits the whip from Harrison Ford and being Indiana Jones. Again, I don't think it's ever going to happen, but I'd be down for it. I think this guy's got a really bright future. All right, what's next?
CJ from New York. Hey, John, people enjoy watching other people getting eaten by dinosaurs. So why hasn't there been another franchise besides Jurassic Park? Why does Universal get to corner the dinosaur market and eat up all the profits?
Okay. This goes back to, in all seriousness, after Lord of the Rings came out, everybody, including me, I was one of the people, everybody expected that, with the success of Lord of the Rings, we are about to get a glut of sword and sandal fantasy films. But you know what happened? The opposite. Turns out studios did not want to put out something that was going to be compared to Lord of the Rings. And if you're a studio, do you want to put out a dinosaur movie that's inevitably going to get compared to the Jurassic Park franchise? And listen, we've had movies with dinosaurs. Hell, even the King Kong movies have dinosaurs.
65.
Yeah, I was going to say 65.
65, but you're right. A lot of other types of trends and whatever in Hollywood, and all of a sudden you get 3 or 4 of them a year coming out. But that's one of the things. If you're one of the big studio execs, do you greenlight a dinosaur-centric movie that's inevitably going to be compared to Jurassic Park? And I think it's the same syndrome that we've seen that happen with Lord of the Rings. I think a lot of people are avoiding it because of that.
And those films are expensive.
They're not cheap to make. You're right. It's super expensive. It's a huge gamble. And you run the risk of people saying, that just looks like a Walmart version of Jurassic Park.
You see it on Shark Tank all the time. Some people trying to make these competitive food products against these giants. And some investors just don't.
This won't compete with this.
Yeah, there's too many things on the market. Yours is good, even if they love the product. But I don't think you can, reach that pinnacle. Whatever.
That's called having a wide moat in marketing.
Yes, it is. All right, what's next?
Anonymous. Oh, no, Venkat. Hey, John, no spoilers here, but there was a total of 4 horses at the mansion in Last of Us Episode 2 yesterday, and yet only 2 are shown at the end. This bothered me.
4 lights. Yeah, again, somebody else mentioned that too. I am only left to assume that the other 2 horses pulled a tauntaun and just froze to death and fell over sideways.
Send scouts later to get the other 2.
Yeah, there's somebody else. They'll go get them. They'll be fine.
They're eating Joel's face.
No, Joel's being dragged. All right, what's next?
Let's see. CJ. Hey, John, with the camera setup that you bought for CinemaCon, which made your presentation the best out there, you'll definitely be back for a special presentation next year, right? That can't be one and done. People like that owl.
Man, people did love that
I tell you
owl.
what, I loved the way that worked. Every year that we would go and do CinemaCon, it was always the same thing. It was like just one webcam, and then those of us who went would squeeze together on a couch and try to all fit in. And they were fun, and they were fine. But I really wanted to upgrade that without having to bring like 3, 4, or 5 cameras to Las Vegas. And yeah, that camera that I used was perfect. It was absolutely perfect for what we were doing. And the little mics that I brought too, it was just a really good, quick, dirty, run and gun little studio setup that I was able to pack into one little suitcase and bring with us to Vegas. And it really did a great job. And yeah, you'll see me use it again.
Those mics weren't required though, right? There were just boosters or something, were they? Or Do you actually have to wear those mics to actually use that camera?
Oh no, those are just mics.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the mics weren't connected to the camera at all.
All
The
right.
mics
No.
are just directly connected to the
Yeah,
computer.
the laptop took in the camera feed separate and then the mic
Yeah,
separate.
so the video came from the camera, the audio came
Yeah.
from the mics.
Because I was about to say we should try 50 people.
All right, what's next?
Garden Variety says, as someone who never played the game, the repeated comments of going golfing took away all the surprise for me, unfortunately. Not for a lot of people,
Yeah,
apparently.
but I mean, one of the things I talked about in the post-game show last night is that here's the reality, though. There was a lot of people, even people who didn't play the game, knew what was coming because the game is A, so recent, and B, one of the highest-selling video games of all time, and C, when it happened, it was the topic of conversation amongst people for years. So there was going to be, obviously there were people who were able to watch that clean, but I don't think there was a lot of people who were able to watch that clean. And as somebody who did already know what happened, because I saw it in the game, that didn't take anything away from it for me just because I already knew it. But again, it was going to be one of the more difficult things to avoid because it was just such a huge pop cultural piece of common knowledge that it was going to be tricky for a lot of people to approach it cold.
There's a couple things in that episode that I didn't know happened, and I had like an audible gasp when I was like, I can't even say it because
yeah,
I don't want to
can't
spoil it.
but yeah.
All right, what's next?
Clark Loves Bruce says, getting really tired of people complaining about the show, the casting, the changes from the game. Do people not realize that it is literally the creator of the game who's involved with telling the story through a new medium? Need to just enjoy the show.
Everybody's allowed to like or dislike whatever they want. I mean, again, where I take issues sometimes when people make it clear they have really bullshit reasons, like their own agenda reasons for not liking something. But again, at the same time, people can watch something and not like it. Here's the reality, though. The vast, vast majority of the people are loving it. The vast majority of people are loving it. But that doesn't, listen, there are people who don't like The Godfather. I'm not saying The Last of Us is The Godfather, but I'm just saying, like, art hits everybody differently. And if something they're watching just isn't working for them for creative and artistic reasons, and it doesn't work for them because of that, that's fine. That's fair. There's things a lot of people like that I don't like. So that's fine. Again, it's when they have their really pathetic bullshit reasons. Yeah, I don't like it because it's a girl or whatever. But there are going to be people who watch and don't like it, and that's totally fair. But again, if you actually look at the verified ratings of it, it's very, very high. All right, what's next?
This next comment kind of reminds me of the last episode of The Studio. Blade Resurrection. Listen, Ryan Coogler writes and directs Blade, and we're in the multiverse. Michael B. Jordan as our new Blade. Sinners is hands down best film of the year thus far. Comparison being the Smile director, and they're like, isn't this just a knockoff of Smile with the same director?
Yeah, it's actually the third knock. That was really fun.
Also, you guys did watch it. Both of you guys?
Yeah, I'm caught up.
Finally
Oh, yeah.
caught up? Yeah, that episode was so funny.
I didn't love the episode. It was my least favorite of the show so far.
I actually like the Ike guy.
Oh,
yeah.
I love him.
Yeah.
I actually really do like that
he
character
broke
a
out
lot.
in that episode for me.
Yeah, he was great. And I got to admit, the whole burrito scene, and it was so,
Oh my
so
gosh.
funny. That was so funny. All right, what's next?
The Mick Whopper. Addressing John's one complaint in the Last of Us post game per HBO podcast. It was a real world snowstorm during filmmaking. They could have added blizzard effects for shots filmed outside of the weather, but still a great episode. If you're cold, they're cold.
Yeah, I mean that's my only point is that if you're saying this is the environment and you shoot, and on one day that you're shooting, there's a legit snowstorm, so you get to put that in practically. For consistency's sake, when you're shooting, and they shouldn't just wait around for the snowstorm to come back. If you're shooting when the weather's good, well, then you need to use some visual effects to make it consistent. And I really do wish they would have done that. Again, the episode was still momentously good. That was the one flaw that I thought would have been a very easy fix. A very easy fix. A guy with 2 years experience using After Effects could have made it look and feel more consistent, but it is what it is. All right, what's next?
Reggie says, now I haven't seen the preview for next week, but I think the fact that Catherine O'Hara's character and Ellie both airing out their issues with Joel to his face will lead to a great scene between the two of them.
Yeah, listen, they introduced the Catherine O'Hara's character that wasn't just for one shot. I mean, there's going to be a payoff to that, and I completely agree. I think you're right. They also made it clear that for whatever reason Joel killed him, it was justified. Like the one guy, Jesse, said, like, well, it had to be done. So clearly probably her husband got infected or something like that. But I think you're right. I think there's going to be like a mutual moment of catharsis for the two of them. All right, what's next?
Bobster says the OG trilogy of my childhood will never be topped in terms of nostalgia and cultural significance. But if Andor season 2 actually improves on season 1, I'm hoping to declaring it, context aside, as the best Star Wars product ever created. Season 1 was close for me.
Again, to me, them's are fighting words. like there's, you can have everything Star Wars, but nothing will touch the original trilogy. Nothing will ever touch it. Now, granted, I'm saying that having not seen Andor season 2, but I cannot imagine a reality in which I'm going to come out of watching Andor season 2 and say it's as good as the original trilogy. I can't imagine that even being a possibility. And I don't need it to be. I just need it to be great. And everything that we're sounds like it's pretty damn great. All right, what's next?
We got Sir Ivan Bennett. Just wanted to say Michael Giacchino has been killing it in movie soundtracks. The Batman, Incredibles, Up, Star Trek, Spider-Man, Inside Out, to name just a few, not to mention the Marvel fanfare. We should give him his flowers.
Hey, and listen, his most recent triumph is that Fantastic Four music.
Yes, so good.
I remember I was at the Hollywood Bowl a year ago when they did the
that was like the
Marvel Infinity Saga
Yeah.
concert. And at the end of it, Michael Giacchino comes out and says, "Hey guys, we got a little special surprise for you. You're going to be the first audience anywhere to hear the new score for Fantastic Four. Yay!" And then they played it and we were like, holy shit, this is really good. And so I don't know how good or bad Fantastic Four is going to be, but I do know the music score is really good. Like it was fantastic. All right, what's next?
Just did that one. Matt Yellow is the Last of Us spoiler. When do you guys?
Do you need to skip it?
Yeah, I'm just gonna see. When do you guys think we will see the? Okay, so I'll just skip it, but go back. I'll reread it. Watching Anonymous is watching. Is that W?
No idea what that.
Yeah,
WrestleMania.
Oh yeah,
guys,
yeah.
please don't write in acronyms.
One match frustrated me because I couldn't follow the action as the competitors looked identical to each other. Tying to movies, what's a movie you were enjoying, but the action scenes let you down because it was difficult to follow the events?
So I'm just going to say this. We went to Buffalo Wild Wings to watch that horrendously bad Lakers Minnesota Timberwolves game 1.
That was depressing.
That was horrible. That was embarrassing. But on a couple of the TVs, they had WrestleMania on. And I'm wondering if this is the match you're talking about. Charlotte Flair had a title match against another woman I've never seen or heard of.
Tiffany Stratton.
So what's her name?
Yeah, Tiffany Stratton.
Tiffany what?
Stratton.
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 Yeah.
Okay, never heard of her. But apparently she was a champion.
Yeah, she's the next big thing.
And I noticed as the two got in the ring, I'm like, they're both blonde and they're both wearing completely identically colored outfits. I'm like, am I even going to be able to tell? I mean, I was watching the basketball game. Like, I wouldn't even be able to tell who's wrestling who. So I don't know if that's the one you're talking about, but
might be. That's a good guess, actually.
But it is horrible when you're watching a movie, and it's not because of the costumes, but because of the camera editing and the God-dreaded shaky camera. Ooh, you know, it'd be really good. You know what would make it feel intense? What's that, director? Shake the camera all over the place. Then people won't be able to tell us going, no. People will love it. Just shake the camera and it'll make it feel so intense and visceral. No, it doesn't. It just makes it feel like ass. And I remember, I mean, there's been plenty of movies that have done a really bad job at that. But one of the worst, not saying the worst or whatever, but one of the worst was Snake Eyes. That came out a couple of years ago. The wannabe G.I. Joe movie, Snake Eyes, the guy from Warrior, played Storm Shadow. Could have been an awesome Storm Shadow. Okay, so first, number one, that movie was just awful. But it could have been awful with great action. And I remember saying in my out of theater review, I said this in my out of the theater response to it, was from the sound of it, it sounded like there was an awesome sword fight going on, but I couldn't tell what the fuck was happening. because the idiot director, whoa, let's do this with the camera. Like, you got Andrew Koji and you got Henry Golding, and you got these two great stars, and you're going to have these great intricate ninja fight sequences with sword play. You know what we should do? What? We should shit all over it. We should, instead of holding the camera still and letting us see this great choreography, do this. And I couldn't tell what the hell was going on screen. I'm just like watching the screen and going, it sounds like there's a pretty good sword fight going on, but I can't tell. Because of like an edit every half a second, and every camera shot was the camera was bopping up and down. It's like, I can't understand what the hell's going on. And it's not just Snake Eyes. There have been a number of movies that have done that. And it's always frustrating when a good action sequence gets ruined by shaky cam.
Maybe even CGI sometimes too. The Michael Bay Transformers all had that problem. Whenever two of the robots would actually do the hand-to-hand.
Yeah, like
it'd be so close.
The
you wouldn't even
virtual
know.
camera with like the weird, rapidly changing shots, and then even like shake, and it just becomes, I can't follow what's going on if you don't just, hey, virtual camera, real camera, set it in place for a few seconds so we can see what's happening. Anyway, all right, what's next?
So the next two are spoiler territory. I could put up the spoiler if you want, and we could just cover those two and then move on.
Skip it. If it's a spoiler,
right.
skip it.
Okay.
The next one is, and I'm gonna have to read from my screen here. Hi, recent fan here from JP. Love your movie talks. What do you think about the sneak peek showcase cinemas are doing tomorrow? 70 minutes showing trailers and footage from CinemaCon.
Again, I think it's a wonderful idea. Again, we were talking about this a few moments ago that Cinema United, which is the organization that was formerly known as NATO, the North American Theater Owners, is now called Cinema United. It's a good name change. They are putting, and they're the company that they're the trade organization. They represent all the movie theaters. And they're the ones who put together CinemaCon every year. They're doing a special thing where the average filmgoers can now go see a bunch of the stuff that was actually shown at CinemaCon. And I think it's a really neat idea, and I hope a lot of people go see it. I think it's a great idea.
Do you think this could cause people to really want to actually go to the event, like after they watched,
like actually want to go to CinemaCon?
Yeah, like, oh no, I want to do this now, and
It's hard to get in.
Sure, but it's $1,500 a ticket.
But
I mean, that's.
Yeah.
I mean, people save up for Disney World. I mean, what if that's someone's thing? I mean, can you see something like this actually elevating the attendance?
No, because remember, they've been cracking down more and more. Like, it's still possible that if you just want to go to CinemaCon that you can, but they are starting to crack down a little bit more and more on the fact that you have to be connected to the industry in some way. That's always been a rule, but they've been very loose with that rule. But in the last couple of years, they've been clamping down on a little bit more and a little bit more. So I don't know if it's even going to be possible for people who want to go, but you never know. It could be possible.
Because I've been thinking about why are they doing this? What would be the reason like behind it? Just to show them what goes on?
No. To showcase.
Right, remember, showcase that, but
no, to showcase what's coming to theaters this year.
I thought
right?
they were just showcasing the event, like what happens there. And
no, they're going to show a lot of the footage that they exclusively show to us at CinemaCon. And so they're going to now show a bunch of that footage to moviegoers to kind of
promote.
Build excitement for what's coming up in the theaters this year.
Yeah.
Which is the job of Cinema United. That's their main job.
Yep.
All right, what's next?
Okay, we got some members. Matt says, hey crew, I went to an IMAX 70mm screening of Sinners on Friday at the Metreon in San Francisco. Ryan Coogler came out, talked to us. It was awesome. And he also grew up going to this theater, mentioning this was where he saw The Dark Knight. Has there been any directors that came out to your theater?
Oh, so, yeah, lots of times. Living in LA and especially being for so long right by the Burbank 16, that's happened several times. By the way, I've been to that movie theater. That's a great movie theater. I think the last time that they had, what's the sister convention to Comic-Con? WonderCon.
WonderCon.
Oh, yeah.
When WonderCon used to be up there.
Right. Before
I think it was the last time WonderCon was up there. I got to go to that theater, and it's a great theater. I really like that one. All right, what's next?
We got King Daddy Goat says, hey crew, hope the weekend was good. Have any of you seen Magazine Dreams? I thought Majors put up an Oscar-worthy performance. Thanks, Bring on the Filthy.
Yeah, I got around to watching it because it's on streaming already. I don't know that he gave an Oscar performance, but hey, man, it's Jonathan Majors. He always is good. He's always good. Even if he's in a bad movie like Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, you can count on his performance being great. And his performance was predictably great. Again, I don't know that it's an Oscar one. He's certainly an Oscar caliber kind of actor, but I thought the performance was wonderful, fantastic. I don't expect to see it mentioned at award season though. All right, what's next?
Dominic says, between The Last of Us episode 2 and starting the first 4 episodes of The Pit, I had a real hard time falling asleep last night. What an era for premium television.
Yes, but to your point, last night Anne decided to go to bed a little bit early. So she went to bed like 9:45, which is not like way earlier than she normally goes to bed. And I'm like, I'm not ready to go to bed yet, baby. So I put on the new Tom Hardy and Pierce Brosnan show, Mobland.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mobland, with Patty, the guy from House of the Dragon, the guy who played King Viserys.
Constantine.
Patty Constantine is in it as well. And I thought, I'm just going to sit down and watch the first episode.
Oh, I'm excited to start it.
I couldn't stop watching.
Oh, man.
I watched it all the way through to the episode, to the newest episode that's out, which is episode 4. I watched all 4 episodes, got done close to 2, went to bed close to 2 in the morning. It's really good.
I would have thought this would have been like an Apple TV kind of show, but it's Paramount.
It feels more like an Apple TV kind of show, but it's a Paramount. It is Paramount, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's Paramount. It's really good. You know what it feels like? It feels like kind of peak Guy Ritchie.
Oh, okay.
It kind of feels a little bit like Guy Ritchie, but a little darker, a little edgier. Pierce Brosnan as a mob boss is awesome. Tom Hardy is great.
Helen Mirren.
Helen Mirren, that's right, plays Pierce Brosnan's wife, and she's incredible. Patty is fantastic in it. Guys, I know not everybody watches Paramount Plus,
Right.
but there's a number of things on Paramount Plus that are really worth it. Hey, go get it. Watch Mobland, and by the way, use the opportunity to get caught up on Matlock, because that show's actually surprisingly really good too. But Mobland is this really surprise, wonderful show. And again, we're only 4 episodes into it, but I'm digging it.
So you're.
Wait a minute. Somebody in the live chat is saying it is from Guy Ritchie.
Oh,
I
there
had
you
no
go.
idea, because I'm
You're
watching. I'm like, this feels like peak Guy Ritchie.
You're like, this is-
Apparently
yeah.
it is Guy Ritchie. Okay. And somebody's asked, is Tulsa King good? Yeah, I like Tulsa King. I don't think it's like a contender for Emmy Awards, but I think Tulsa King's really good too.
Maybe he's like an executive producer on it. He's not the creator.
Okay, but it definitely has a Guy Ritchie
Yeah.
kind of feel to it. Yeah, watch Mobland. It's really
And
great.
you should give them our promo code too. Oh, sorry. Come on, Paramount, sponsor us.
All right, what's next?
Guy Falk says, hi, John. I love the Bourne films. Do you think there will be new ones with Matt Damon?
You know, there's been talk that they are going to do more Bourne films, but the question is right now whether or not it'll have Matt Damon. I think they're going to move on. And I'm actually okay with that for a couple of reasons. Number one, the last Bourne movie where he's basically fighting an evil version of Facebook, that was not very good.
That sounds
was-
like a South Park episode.
Yeah, it was not a good movie.
Was it Born?
I can't even remember.
Oh yeah, I think it was just called Jason Bourne.
Yeah, that might have been it.
Oh, that's what's. I'm sorry. Someone in the chat was saying, "What about the Jackal?" And now I realize what they're saying.
Oh, the Jackal's on Paramount Plus as well.
No, that's on Peacock.
Oh, you're
but
right.
Ronan Bennett is the creator of the Jackal and Mobland.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because the Jackal was great. The Jackal is
Yeah,
worth getting
I loved
Peacock
it.
all
So
on
there
its
you
own.
go.
Yeah. Jason Born.
Yeah, Jason
That was
Bourne.
not a good movie.
Jason Born Again.
And the reality, Matt's now 54.
Yeah.
And so, which is an age where you still could do another couple of Bourne movies with him. But
It's hard.
considering it's been so long and the last one was kind of crappy, it's a good time to start fresh.
You know
Start with a
what?
new
If you want to
Bourne
see an
and-
old man born, just watch The Old Man.
Yeah, that's if you want to see an old man born, Go watch Jeff Bridges and the Old Man,
And
then
they should
do it
cast
together.
Jimmy Kimmel as the newborn.
Yes.
Yeah.
That would be so. I guarantee you, there's going to be a skit on Jimmy Kimmel at some point now of them doing that.
That'd be so funny.
All right, let's take like 2 more, then we'll call it a day.
All right, Joel Howland. Hey, John and crew, hope your day is doing great. I played a little bit of the Last of Us game. Was not expecting that, man. Just want to see what happens next. How excited are you for what's coming? The story really opens up so much.
Yeah, really, the event with Joel is what starts the real story, right? The story of The Last of Us 2 starts with the death of Joel.
All this stuff in Seattle coming, guys, man.
Yeah, if they handle it right, the way they handled season 1, I think we're in for a real treat. Real treat.
I have to say this. The very first thing, as soon as the episode finished, is you'll never guess what I typed in my Google search. How does Abby die? And I say,
It's gonna be the number one search term.
That's the assumption that, oh, she dies. Like in my head, she's gonna die.
Hey, don't say anything.
No.
Don't say anything.
But I searched that. I know nothing of the game other than the big plot point that we're trying to not talk about. But I know nothing of it, so I just searched it and nothing. I found
I'm
nothing.
sure a lot of people are like,
Oh yeah, it's gonna be like the number one search term on Google today. All right, last question of the day. What one's next?
All right, let's see. We got Joe. Oh wait, we did Joe.
We already got one in from Joel. Let's go to Mighty Tank.
Mighty Tank. Is there any chance Andor could surpass the original trilogy? Well,
No
I don't
chance. No chance.
know. Yeah, just
And the
what I meant to
original
your-
trilogy is the pinnacle of all filmmaking in human history. Nothing will ever surpass the original Star Wars trilogy. Now, again, I am cognizant of the fact that I'm saying that having not yet seen Andor season 2. I understand that. But let's just say this. I feel pretty safe in saying that there's no chance it can exceed the original trilogy. I mean, I just can't see it happening. Now, if it does, it does. I'm just saying I find it very hard to believe that it will. But check in with me in a few weeks and we'll see.
there you go.
And all right, guys, that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show podcast. Thank you so much for being here and making our little show a part of your day. Big special thank you to all you guys who sent in questions. Number 1, you gave us great fun things to talk about. But number 2, you supported this channel as you did it, and all of us involved with the show. Thank you guys so very much for your support. Hey guys, don't forget, tomorrow, big day. Number 1, we got the John Campea Show in the morning. The whole crew will be back for it. Hopefully you guys will come back and join us as well. But also tomorrow night, Andor starts season 2, and we'll be doing our post-game show later in the evening. Keep your guys always open for that, and we hope you'll come and join us for that as well. So for the already left the buildings, Chris Carr and Robert Meyer Burnett, a thank you to Ray Ora,
See you guys tomorrow.
Jonathan Boyko.
See you guys.
My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.